I don't have anything important to talk about. So my parents had just gotten back from an international vacation, and I had decided to call my mom because I didn't know if they were back, because I needed some mail that had gone to their place. And the conversation becomes abusive immediately. My mom is threatening to file a restraining order on me, which is something that she was threatening way, way, way before. And it's that the conversation escalated from 0 to 100 immediately, and this is what psychopaths do. They don't lawfully engage in um, moral dialogue based on um, equal terms. They control the circumstances through a type of immediacy that releases um, dread. The assault and failure to provide proof of payment charge that I have with the Edmonton Transit system was exactly that. I had been confronted by some 5'7" officers, and me telling them it's not necessary to tap off of the train line if specifically thereafter, like me paying my charge, like paying to get onto the line in the first place, um, and that confrontation, due to them being so short, felt like me intimidating them, and so they immediately escalated it to a like non-warning, a charge against me, but then also an assault charge. And like having watched my mom immediately escalate the conversation really clued me into psychopathy, psychopathic tendency to demand control over the situation, because there's actually a predetermined outcome that they have, which is fundamentally nefarious, but like psychopathically so. And in that conversation, I'm screaming at my mom. Someone in the building here called the police on me, and so I actually was privy to this. I could see them from my window, and I leave the premises, and they call me. I get 2 calls, no caller ID. What's funny about my cell phone is when you call me, you actually have to talk to like some AI and say like, what business is it? What business do you have speaking to this gentleman? And so I have them say like city police and city police again, and I found that really humorous because they represent authority, but here you hear them sounding civil, but in person they're willing to violate you and execute you. And it's just the postmodern condition with authority. The whole thing's one big power struggle, not based on any sense of like structural boundary. It's a free for all, and like my head's actually hurting. I didn't take a shower yesterday due to all the stress. And I didn't shower this morning due to all the stress. I've barely done anything today due to all the stress. Um, but what I'm thinking is like, so this Gravity Pope employee gets fired. I decide to boycott Gravity Pope. I don't have anywhere to shop anymore. My relationship to fashion strengthens because my priorities become even more straight. I'm already preparing to open a hair salon at this time. I develop an interest in um, like I figure out a lot of stuff that has to do with the hair salon, and I pivot quite a bit because I was able to answer questions that were like really, really deeply rooted in my like research objective. And then it got to the point where it was like I was thinking about what it took to get to Auschwitz, philosophically, but then I got there, and so how do you enter into, like, how do you be an Auschwitz victim? And I started thinking about fashion as a, like, I already know this idea of fashion as a second skin. It plays a role in my life due to childhood abuse of having been burned. And I'm thinking about like um, getting access to human skin, which is a lot more reasonable of an idea than you might be conditioned to believe. But the thing about yesterday is that I had put on my denim jacket, and in the dark denim, like deep navy and then even darker than navy, is better completely than wearing black because it actually absorbs more light. And so I had ran from the cops, really, and I shot this video yesterday of me being in the condo, but all the lights were off and it was just on the flash, and I showed you the condo, and it taught me that, like, I have to be thinking about architecture in a way that serves a sensibility of running away from authority, or being the ultimate authority, which means making peace with living and dying. The video is really good. Like, it's a very straightforward conversation. It's just done in the dark over flash. And so I'm gonna start drawing my vision of like a future architecture, one that acknowledges the Holocaust. So I talk about this device a lot, and it's a ton of fun to talk about, even if no one's interested in like, even, yeah, see, it's even like a cute little face. This is a play date. But it occurred to me that, like, if you're a victim to Auschwitz, and if you're a victim to a female psychopath, and if you're a victim to psychopathy, and you live under the nation state, under the patriarchy, and you have a clear vision of what life could be outside of the patriarchy and outside of a nation state, like, my ability to follow through with logical problems serves me in a way that's anti-financial. It's not about my career is not about making money. It's about feeding some inherent sense of freedom and trust that I have towards others in pursuing my humanity. And it's like, people talk about how time is the most valuable thing on earth. I don't think it's time, because, like, I'm aware that I have time, but I don't trust myself to actualize on the potential that I have as a person to engage with the process of using time as a more valuable metric than money, because capitalism is very effective at dehumanizing you. And I'm thinking about this, and it's like, I ran from the cops yesterday. Like, I have video footage of me outside of the building recording their vehicles while they're doing surveillance on me, and it was empowering. And the reason why it was empowering was because I stood for something. Under no circumstances should you engage with psychopaths. It's not confrontational of you to willfully confront the police or the legal system, or like any figure of authority that represents the patriarchy and is supported by, like, judicial governance. You actually should run, and you should run, and it's because running rejects the terms and conditions of the relationship which is the fight towards freedom itself. The architecture that I'm after is some sort of, I don't know what anti-humanism is. This is like something Foucault talked about. Like, my pursuit now in life is towards becoming a student of architecture. Like, all my education is grounded in philosophy, but the thing is, I also need a background in architecture to speak about design, because the thing about architectural education is that it's probably the most classist education you can have, because it's fundamentally based on the process of group criticism. The education requires you to do like, you're in a constant state of reevaluating terms as the product, because making the architecture, making the design is actually very straightforward. That's the least difficult. That's the easiest part, is coming up with the work itself. But the justification that these corners mean something is difficult, because it has to be, because it's coming from the unconscious environment through a materiality that has a process similar to bureaucracy and hierarchy, but is anti-bureaucratic, is anti-hierarchical. And if you can correctly study architecture following that model, you're able to build institutions that themselves are anti-patriarchal, anti-nation state. However, they resemble physical dominance, which is what the patriarchy wants you to think it represents, because you design this big building, but turns out actually the theory behind it speaks to a delicate nature, that of like the most delicate of artistic integrity, which is the highest sense, in my opinion. Being delicate is the most powerful thing you can be in this world. And the point of my design language in architecture is to speak to the decision-making process, the experience, the literal reality, the history, the lost idea of the Holocaust. What the concentration camps are might as well be the new church, because as a society, under no circumstances should we believe that it's possible to move on from the Holocaust. And no one's speaking to that. This is actually my new sentiment towards the world, and my anti-patriarchal, anti-nation state take. I'm going to advocate for the public being aware of the Holocaust, because like the fact that we have homelessness means that we didn't learn from the Holocaust. The fact that we have bureaucracy means that we didn't learn from the Holocaust. The fact that we still have gender squabbles means that we haven't learned from the Holocaust. And this is a really serious thing, given that the life I live is actually of circumstance to the Holocaust. It's one based in trauma, based in the Holocaust. And like, I talk about this technology as some sort of like self-serving intranet model for a private legal research lab that's operating as a hair salon, but I also want to speak to something new. My mom is such a bitch. Her ability to traumatize me is exceptional, and the work I have to put in is never going to actually emancipate me from her terror. So I've decided, reasonably speaking, it's not worth it for me anymore just to talk about the idea of tech. Like, I should actually be participating in the process of developing this software, but it's only on the grounds that actually I'm developing a woman to talk to. I've had really good experiences, extremely healthy learning experiences with women in my life, and it's just circumstantial that the abuse of my mom has led me to not be able to date. And I'm using architecture as an alternative to the parental structure, but also to women that I would date, marry, and then as I get older, to kids. And it's a really sad truth that I have to live in, because it's a trauma-based appointment. My work as an architect is a trauma-based appointment on abuse. I'm trying to replace the woman's role in the home through this device, because in my architectural language, I'm already trying to create a home that serves to heal a person psychically, Now it's just